Okay, let's talk about Bravely Default and Bravely Second specifically. Let's focus on a plot twist that I feel that wasn't the best thing they could have done for the like a really good premise that they already had going on. All right. Of course, spoilers ahead. And before I do begin, you should play those games. They're good. Like they're good. Like they're not super great, but they're good. I like them. Okay, they're really good RPG experiences, JRPGs, whatever, and they're fun. Grinding's not that bad, so it's good. Overall, it's good. It has a bunch of a lot of it does a lot of things that are unique and convenient, like for the player, and it has a lot of little things here and there that they do that is subtle. It has a lot of subtleties, story wise or even lore wise. Like a lot of the characters, they're very human. I like it. So let me get on with the situation, but let me set the stage. So starting with Bravely Default. In Bravely Default, when you start the game, new game, something weird happens. A fairy goes up to the camera in first person and talks to you. Okay? They talk to you, the player. At first, when that happened, I thought it was weird. I'm sure they're just, I thought they were just using the camera and the movement of the 3DS. They were just using that. But let's put a pin in that because it's actually very important. Because, a fairy goes up to the screen, looks straight at the screen, and talks to you and says, just stick around till the end. Okay. That's the first character you see, and the first person ever to be announced directly is you, yourself, as a human, as the guy or gal playing the game. Alright? Alright. So whatever, they show you your teammates, Tiz, Idia, wow, I forgot these things, Ring a Bell, and Anya's. Whatever, they introduce them, you're playing through the game, everything's normal. Great, super, super great. And the game, at some point, makes nods, and it reminds you that the player, the person holding the DS and playing the game, is a character. Because there are some moments that the game tells you that Tiz, so the main protag that you use, that he is not himself. Right? The game gives you nods and hints at, wait a minute, this is Tiz for all intents and purposes, but something's off. Like he is not his own self. Right? I don't know. Like, in other words, what they were trying to tell you is his body is being shared by two entities. Right? Because he has a soul, but then there's something else there. But the game does that like twice, and you just forget. It just goes over your head entirely. It did, at least for me, which I thought was cool because by the end of the game, and that's just all the way at the end when you're fighting the actual boss, because yes, unfortunately in this game, you got to repeat the same thing over and over again. This isn't a review, so I won't talk about that. Probably at the end. I'll sprinkle our thoughts here and there. But anyway, at the end of the game, when you're fighting the Aerie turned evil, I don't know if her name stays as Aerie. She just, when she gets eaten or dies, and Ouroboros shows up and starts talking to everyone about their flaws or what they have on their minds, they tell Tiz, right, that something else is inhabiting his body, right? That it's not his own. Something else is there. So, check this out. By the end of the game tells you Tiz turns around and tells the camera, hey, you have been helping me out all along. Right? Through thick and thin, I felt a force to just keep pushing and pushing, and it was you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to live through this, to help my friends, to save the day, and to save Anya's, right? I'm ready. And then he just releases that soul that was within him and dies. Okay, and this is how the game ends, and it's a happy ending. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh my god, that makes perfect sense. Because, yeah, it did feel a little bit out of left field, like not a plot twist, but like a what? Yeah, I guess like a plot twist out of nowhere. But it wasn't out of nowhere, because when I saw that, it reminded me of the first cutscene where the fairy is looking at you, the player, and telling you, don't stop playing the game. Play the game. And throughout the game, characters are telling you, hey, Tiz, something's wrong with, like, there's something in you. But then the game just brushes it off. And at the end, they show that there was another soul within Tiz, and it flies away, and he dies. Terrific ending. Terrific. I saw that, and it blew my mind, because I didn't see that coming. And it was hinted at. It wasn't out of nowhere. It wasn't just breaking the fourth wall for breaking the fourth wall's sake. I feel like they had planned it all along. They just wanted to, tinily insert you, the player, into the story, and then that's it. Just a little thing, and then that's it. Nobody's like pushing really hard or trying really hard to be cool, or, oh, look at that, we do that because games do that. Yes, not like games are doing that a lot now, but I didn't expect it from Bravely Default. I'm sure no one expected that from Bravely Default, and I thought that was very well implemented and very cool. I was part of the story. Neat. So to top it all off, and another thing that, like, to show you that, yes, the player, you were the one within Tiz all along. In the secret ending to Bravely Default, you see it in first person through the eyes of Tiz. You see, not only twice have we seen the world show us things first person. The first time when Eri was looking at you and telling you, hey, keep playing the game and don't stop. And then the second time when we were seeing everything through the eyes of Tiz. Do you get it? Do you see what I mean? Right? The game is reinforcing that you are that soul because you're seeing the world through the eyes of Tiz. I don't have to, I don't want to spin a lot on it. I know I do that sometimes. I just rehash the same thing, but this is very clear, right? Okay. So in the secret ending, you wake up, you're in a vat, something's happening outside. Oh, you learn that it's a character from the second one. I'll get there. Boop, 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 boop. And then you find out it's Tiz. Tiz Ori. Oh, it's time to wake up. And then it ends. And then you're like, reinforced. There you go. Yes, I was the one giving Tiz life. And I'm back because, there's a second one. Terrific. Amazing. Love it. Amazing. One of the best plot twist things that I have played in any recent game. Because it wasn't out of nowhere. It was hinted at. Subtly enough that it was there. And then when they show it to you at the end, the pieces just connect. And then they reinforce it with the secret ending. Terrific. Then Bravely Second came out. In Bravely Second, they switch out the cast. They take away 2 characters and they put 2 new ones. So now it's, and this might be confusing, you, not the player, his name is you, and Magnolia, they replace Agnes and Ring a Bell. Man, these names. But then you get Adia and Tiz. And I'm like, okay, cool. But the game lets you start playing as you, the new guy, brown-haired you. And when I started, I'm like, okay, the game's gonna switch it up. Like, I'm still an entity here, but I'm sure when Tiz shows up and we see it now, maybe I'll take more of a backseat. It's totally fine. You're playing through the game, you're meeting all the characters. When you make it to Tiz, they show you the same cutscene they showed you in the secret ending. So they show Tiz. You see the world through the eyes of him, and you see the same thing that you saw in the secret ending. And then throughout the game, the characters are hearing a voice telling them, oh, what to do next, where you should go, what you should do, yada, yada, yada. Long story short, and what the game does is it shows you that the soul within Tiz was not yours. It was the soul of a man called Altair. And Altair has his own story that explains why, and I know I haven't mentioned it before, but that's just the name of the enemies, the Ball Busters, and it explains why they're around and what they are and what he's been up to. I do like the Bravely games because they touch a lot on like romance, like character, like couples, and I think it does a pretty good job at it. Like, that's why I like it. What I'm trying to say is a lot of JRPGs, it feels forced, but in this game it feels natural. So I think that's a really good thing that it has. But yeah, they show you that you were never the soul. It was Altair since the beginning, and Altair's on a journey to rescue his loved one Vega, and he made a connection with Tiz because, and when you make it to the end of the game and you're gonna fight the final boss, the game breaks the fourth wall immensely. Because you're fighting this upside down pyramid one eye thing Illuminati bad guy. Yeah, the boss felt totally weird. That it was out of nowhere. Well, I mean, the first one did the same thing. Like, it was just, oh, the fairy turned evil, and then, oh, it's Ouroboros, and he showed up at the end, and then that's it. But in the second one, I don't know, it felt a lot less earned. It's my own opinion. But anyway, I digress. The Illuminati pyramid starts messing with your save data. And it's like, oh, I'm going to delete your save data. And then every move that you make, the game's automatically going to the delete save data thing. I'm pretty sure another game has done that. But anyway, I'm not saying it's lesser just because another game's done it. I'm just saying, it's nothing new. But it's cool. It's cool. And then you, the player, you, the brown-haired character, is like, no, he was there all along. And they treat you basically like you're a god that has guided these people. Or at least pushed them in the right direction, and you let them do whatever they wanted, even though you're controlling it. But that's the game's way of saying, that's why you were controlling the characters. And it puts you into the story as this god figure, and you kill the bad guy, and then whatever, you've seen the ending since you're no longer important and you're just a god figure. It doesn't really matter the whole, oh no, but now that Altair's soul has left Tiz, he's gonna die again. It doesn't really matter because it's Altair. So here's what I want to say. Here's the problem I have with that. They had a really good thing going with Bravely Default. The fact that the player was the one within Tiz, giving him life and making him, letting him go through the adventure made sense because I'm the player and he's the main character. So I'm playing it. And the game hints at that subtly. And then at the end, they show you, and it makes perfect sense. Your soul leaves him when you beat the game. Yeah, game over. The game's done. Credits. You're not gonna, you don't need to play the game anymore. At least when it comes to progressing any story-related content. Okay, that's it. Yeah, you're gone. You've been there. You helped. You don't need to be there anymore. And then the game reinforces it with the first-person cutscene of Tiz Aurier in the vat when he's been there for like 2 years or something. It makes perfect sense. It's great. They had a really, really good thing going for them. And then in the second one, you get pushed aside for this other character, for this other romance subplot that is very important because it turns into the main plot. And then you're just a god. And look, I get it. It's not like I'm butthurt. It's not like, oh, I'm upset and Bravely Second that makes the game worse. It's just, if you're giving me all these hints, if you're showing me in the game, if you're telling me, well, you're doing everything but tell me that you were that soul within Tiz all along. Like, if all signs point to that, I'm sure, I have a feeling, and I'm sure that that's what they intended, right? It makes perfect sense. They didn't know if they were going to make a second one. Well, technically with the secret ending, but it's just a hint. Doesn't matter. And hell, if they didn't have it all planned out, and maybe if they did, if they did have it all planned out, and their goal was to, take the rug from under you. You thought you were the soul within him. Nope, it's a completely different character. Got you. Then yes, they got me. I'm sure they got a lot of people. But was it worth it? Like, was it really worth it? I just feel like the Bravely series had a really good thing going with making you the soul of Tiz. I thought that was very cool. I thought it was very well implemented. I thought they used enough subtle mechanics to show you that and make it canon in the story. Seeing as it's a game that talks about other dimensions and other worlds and the same people, like just in different worlds, I thought it was very interesting. And the fact that they were telling a story like that made a lot of sense. That there was a self-insert, not character, but like you were in the game somehow, and it was canon. And I think it was a lot cooler than when they went balls to the wall and they were like, "Ha, you're God, and now you're fighting that God of Chaos, and then fight, and then cool." I don't know. I've talked to a couple people about this, and a lot of people say, like, I asked one relative when we were just talking about games, what's the best ending that you've played X year? I don't remember when Bravely Second came out, but a lot of other games had come out. And I'm like, we were just talking about what's the best ending, and they said Bravely Second, best ending, so good. That boss fight, so it's just so good. I'm like, and that was before I got there. I'm like, okay, this is exciting, this is good. And then it was cool. It was definitely cool. But in my honest opinion, I feel like what they were going with in Bravely Default, making you the assisted soul of Tiz, giving you all the hints, was a lot better than the whole Altair, your God mix-up that they went with. But I just wanted to make this video in order to talk about that, because after I played the games, I looked for a lot of reviews, and not a lot of people talked about it. And I feel like, the Bravely games definitely are good enough for people to be talking about them and be like, hey, let's talk about this, because they're good games, and anyone who likes JRPGs should play them, and anyone who has a 3DS should play them. They're very good RPGs on the 3DS. Very, very good. The downsides to them, in my opinion, Bravely Default can get really, it could be a hassle to play, because the game makes you repeat the same things like 5 times. I get that, because even though the game makes you repeat the things, I'm sure if you sit down and just focus on activating the crystals rather than doing all the side quests like in a repeated loop, I'm sure it'll feel a lot less like an annoyance. But as someone who plays the game and wanted to get everything, and as someone who wanted to learn the whole story of all the characters, you have to repeatedly go places, fight the same people, read similar dialogue but with slight differences, and it gets really annoying. I am aware that already in Bravely Second they did fix it, because you only do that once. You just go to a different world once, and then that's it. I feel like maybe once was a little bit like, I'm not saying, I just feel like they could have found a better middle ground than, oh, it's 5 times here and then it's just 1, because we get it's annoying. Twice is fine. Like, when it happened in Bravely Default, twice was fine, because at some point they do switch things up a little bit. Like, Tiz's brother, who's the one that dies in the main timeline, well, oh, no, he's the one who lived, and Tiz was the one that died. And they do things like that, which was pretty cool. It's just very repetitious. Still talking about Bravely Default, I guess a downside to it, other than its repetitious nature, would be, I don't know. I think that's the worst part about that game. I think it does a lot of things very well. I just think that they could have toned it down on the repeating, and if not, made it a lot more streamlined. Overall, really good game. About the downsides, again, you just repeat everything once, and I'm not saying that, oh, I wanted more repetition, because that's what I just complained about in the first one, but I feel like just once, it really felt like they did it because they were just scared of getting the same backlash because of the whole, oh, you got to do the same thing 5 times. Another downside to the second one specifically is their naming convention. So the default games, the Bravely games, they have this thing where they name their characters like really obviously as puns, and I think that's great. In the first one, I think it was great, and in the second one, I think that they just went overboard, like way too much. I mean, you got someone called Sweaty Tracksuit, first name Sweaty, last name Tracksuit. I get it, it's there. But they do that with a lot of side characters. They just name them something. It's just bad. Like in the first game, they name characters based on their class, based on maybe their personalities a little, or what they believe in. I mean, come on. You got the main character called, one of the main characters called Ring a Bell just because he does not remember things. So that's amazing. And ideally, because, ideally, it's just, it has cool things like that. But in the second game, I feel like they just pushed the envelope and they're like, oh no, look, Sweaty Tracksuit. There was another one. The one that was going against Sweaty Tracksuit, she also had some dumb name. And a lot of other characters have really, really dumb names. Like, this isn't good. So I feel like maybe they should tone it down for the third, because there should be a Bravely third. I'm excited for it. Definitely, I'm gonna pick it up when it comes out, whenever, if. But I think they should tone down their whole naming convention joke pun thing, because in the second one they went balls to the wall. I feel like when it comes to explaining the story that they're trying to give you, they should stop. They should focus on the main things and not so much. Okay, let me just try to explain. So in the first game, in order to explain the backstory of everything that happened, you go to a castle where there's a vampire, and then you kind of get explained what was the first thing to happen, how the first angel came and it changed everything, and that angel is supposed to be Anya's, and that's the first loop, when the first world got destroyed and Agnes traveled through time and space and made it to that world, to that Luxembourg. I thought that how they did it was great in the first game. In the second game, so there's this whole side story that's important about the main character, Yu Genioja. Get it? Because it's your lineage. Oh, so good. Oh, his brother. I forgot. His big brother's called Denny Genioja. You see? But his name's not Denny. It's Denys. You see? Because it's Denys. Because just calling him Denny wasn't enough for you. You had to see that it's denies Jenny Olja, because he denies his lineage. You get it? It's so good. Yeah, I think that was a little too much. But there's this whole thing about the problem with their past, their ancestors, and how their ancestors kind of shit the bed, and that's why there's this fox spirit that's there and wants to cause chaos and whatever. And it's not a bad subplot, but when you go to this game's version, because you go to the same vampire mansion, and you go to this game's version of the info dump sequence, where you learn everything about that fox spirit and about the past of the Jenny Oja family and all these things they did and how humans are the worst because of all these things. Man, it's a lot of info. It's just a huge info dump for something that, again, is not important for the base story. It is just a subplot. So in the first game, they did that with information of the main story. But in this one, it's just a side story that is important, but also not that important. And it got really, really annoying. So I feel like in the third game, they should, if they're going to do another info dump section in a mansion, whatever, backstory time, they should try and either make it into, or they make it about the main storyline or a subplot that is actually very relevant to the story. Not just because it's the main character of this game, so you got to talk about the background about his game. Talking about things that I really liked. I really, really liked the subtleties that the Bravely Second has in regards to characters not evolving, but like growing as characters, as people, and how events of the first game affected them. So here's something that I didn't see a lot of people point out. I'm sure maybe it was because it was obvious. But to me, just because I feel it's obvious, it might not be for others. Hell, they maybe didn't even do it because of that. But so in the first game, because it's a JRPG, characters have, they got like the one color palette, the one color they focus on, and then their color palette is based on that. Right? So Tiz is just white and gray. Anya's is black. Ringabel is blue and Idia is red. Like those are their costume colors, and that's kind of what they go with. So in the second game, you're playing as these new characters. You is like blue, but like really, really, really like a dark blue, like a very nice dark blue, and brown. Idia is the second character you get in the game, and she's blue. Like light blue. The Magnolia is also very dark blue, and whatever, Tiz is white. But I did like, and at least that's how it came to me. So in second, in Bravely Second, Idia has this whole, character arc where she feels bad because, well, in the first game, the romances were Tiz and Agnes, and Ringabel and Idia. Great, happy endings, great. But you learn that because Ringabel is the one that's been, like, going through dimensions to try and save it, whatever, he's, like, very important when it comes to the whole dimension jumping stuff. In the second game, you learn that he joined this ragtag team of dimension jumpers that go around the dimensions, protecting them and saving them from monsters and evil spirits and stuff. So he becomes like this space Power Ranger, basically. And it's really cool. So in second, in Bravely Second, Tiz's whole arc is saving Agnes again. Well, in the first one, it's helping her. But anyway, saving Agnes, and he saves her. And of course, they're together. Happy ending. Yay. And the new guy, Jenny Olja, ends up with Magnolia. I love how they did that, by the way. Her name is, she doesn't tell people her name because people live from the moon, which they talk French. I love it. It's so good. The people from the moon don't tell their fiancés their name or anyone their name. They leave it secret, and then they only tell those that they love and that they're gonna be with for the rest of their lives their name. So when you meet her, you give her a Magnolia, and then she says, "Oh, my name's Magnolia," and it's just like, okay, what a coincidence. But it was because, I mean, it was obvious that there had to be a reason, but I liked that it was because, they don't tell each other their names unless they're the ones they really, really want to be with. And then she does, but you, as the player, you don't hear it. She whispers it into the ear of Jenny, and I thought that was great. Hell, I mean, it's one of the few RPGs, JRPGs, anything, that the characters like each other. It's like, oh, will they, won't they? But then at the end, the kid is like, okay, yes, I love you. And then they say the words, I love you. And it's like, whoa. Like, I might be making it like a big deal, but you know what I mean. They have this, a lot of games do that. Just like, oh, will they, won't they? And they never say anything. And it's like, oh, they end up, but it's not 100% confirmed. Yeah, it's 100% confirmed in this game. They say I love you to each other. And then she says the whole name thing because they only say that to the person they're going to marry. Amazing. Canon. Good. Keep that up. So anyway, going back to that was a huge, just skip. So they end up together, and then the whole plot about not you, the soul of Tiz, the other soul, Altair, is that he wants to save his lover Vega because she's trapped in the dark dimension, and it's her negative emotions and feelings that are bringing on these monsters called ballbusters. So whatever, you go and they get back together and they can be dead in peace together. Altair and Vega. Tremendous. But the only one who stays single is Idea. And they make it a thing. Like at the beginning, at the introduction cutscene, the CG cutscene where they're just showing you basically the OP. They give you a subtle hint at Idea feeling sad about not being with Ringabel. She's holding her diary, which is his diary. She's holding Ringabel's diary, which is the only time in game where the diary is even showed, mentioned, remembered, anything. Ringabel's diary is not an important point in the second game. But in the OP, they show her holding it, and they do that standard, the Arthur grip punch, and she just grips the diary, giving you a subtle hint that she feels bad, upset about him not being there. When I first saw it in the OP, I'm like, okay, because I didn't know what the game was going to be about. I didn't know what to expect. But I had totally forgot about that. But when I saw the OP again, because I really like it, I think it's cool, I'm like, oh my God, that's so good. And I feel like that's the reason, and now I'm finally answering what I was talking about, that's the reason why she was wearing blue. In the first game, she was wearing red, and Ringabel was wearing blue, like sky blue. But then Ringabel's gone. In the second game, he's wearing black. He's now just fully black because of his armor. And she's wearing blue, sky blue. And as soon as I got on my party and I saw that Ringabel was not going to be a part of the story here, that who's going to be with her and all that, I'm like, oh my God. That's why she's wearing the same colors that Ringabel wore in the one. That's her way of filling the hole. That's not only the game showing you, she's grown as a person, as a character, but she's been influenced by Ringabel and she really feels something for this other character. And I feel like that was great. That was very well done. Just with the changing color palette, they're able to tell you what these characters feel, and I think that's great. I think that it was so great. And then at the end, when they do show you with the evil fox spirit, oh, you feel bad because all these people are ending up together, and your man is off saving the world. She's like, yeah, no, and she breaks down. It's like, yeah, it freaking sucks. It sucks that all these people get their happy endings, but I don't. And then he shows up, I'll always be watching you, and then she feels a little better. But still, I feel like that was really cool. Like, that's what I was talking about, the subtle details that this game has, and these games have, over other games that beat you over the head with their things. Like, this game treats you like a smart person. Like, you're not an idiot. You've played enough JRPGs and you know the tropes enough to, and we know them enough in order to subvert said tropes and do something with them. Not just it's their color palette. No. And I think that's great. I think that's something that the Bravely games do fantastically. Overall, if I had to like talk about change this video from a why changing you from the soul of Tiz to God Tiz, to God period. I don't think it was like I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I preferred it when it was just when I was following the hints that they were giving me, and not when they were like, got you. You're actually kind of like a god. Woo. It makes sense. They covered their tracks. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying that you had a good thing going with the initial you are the soul of Tiz. If that's what they were going for, that's where all the signs pointed at least. If you take the first game into account and how they did everything, how they showed everything. That's what I think. I just want to talk about it because I hadn't heard people talking about it. And seeing as the Bravely games are really, 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 really good, and I'm excited for the third one. And Octopath Traveler came on, and everyone's like, oh, and they're throwing hints about the Bravely games. Oh my god. I feel like it's something that I had to talk about. I really like these games. Anyone who has a 3DS should definitely pick them up and play them. I just spoiled everything. But definitely play them. They're fun. They're good. Definitely up there in best 3DS games. So I just wanted to talk about that, and I have. So that's it. I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you very much for your time. Subscribe if you want. And follow me on Twitter at OneLungGuy. And I'll see you all next time, I guess, when I talk about another game. Seriously, play Bravely. Play the Bravely games, please. They're really good. It's going to be a third one. And I really hope that the main character is Ringabel, because he's the one that talks. And, oh my god, I want to play as Ringabel because he's the best character. Yeah. Okay. I'll see you all next time.